Good evening, everyone. Hope all of you are doing fine. I am Anjana. I am com student of the department. First of all, I wholeheartedly welcome you all to another enlightening session of NTA Net online coaching organized by the Commerce Club Department of Commerce, University of Kerala. I hope that all of you have subscribed to our channel. If not, please click the subscribe button below the video. The recorded videos of all the previous sessions will be available there. Do share and support. Today, we will be dealing with human resource management, an area included in paper 2. And to handle today's session, we have with us Ms. Prasida S.J., JRF holder and research scholar of our department. She successfully cleared her NET in the year 2018 and JRF in the year 2019. She has 2 years experience teaching and has worked as a lecturer in the University Institute of Technology in Neyatankara. She is currently a research scholar in the Department of Commerce, University of Kerala. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome Ms. Prasida S.J. to handle the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, dear Anjana. Let me share my screen. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Is my screen visible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, I think it is visible. Let us start. So before moving on to the formal session, let me tell you one thing. This is not a radio communication where I'll say everything and you'll be hearing. Keep responding. Your suggestions are inevitable. Keep responding, keep asking questions, and you can either use the chat box or can type or can turn on your mic, unmute your mic and speak. Please feel free to ask your questions because communication is possible when it is done two-way. One-way communication is irrelevant here. Again, we know the purpose why we are gathered here. The purpose is purely to complete or to qualify your NET or JRF examination. And nowadays, you know, NET and MCOM are considered as complementary. That means in academics, or if you want to shine in the sector of academics, you need to get MCOM along with NET. That means without NET, MCOM is irrelevant, and without MCOM, NET is irrelevant. So such kind of complementarity is there. So for that, the importance of NET is very much important. So let us start the session by reminding you, keeping you reminding that thing. So please responding, type or unmute and speak. Now human resource management, let me ask you one question first. Okay, when you hear about human resource management, which are the topics that comes under your mind? Fast, type quickly. When you hear about HRM, what are the topics that comes in your mind first? Yes. Yes.
Krishna, can you please mute your mouth?
Selection, training, HR, human resource as an asset. Then what else? Appraisal, very good. Appraisal. Again, training. What else? Performance appraisal. Okay, performance appraisal. Planning. Good. Then human as an asset. Very good. Compensation. Compensation. Then anything that is there in your mind, please feel free to say. Compensation and benefits. Good. Again, fast. Development, good. Development. Anything else? Motivation, training, good, motivation. Again, you might be having a number of points. Job training, again motivation. So these are the points that most probably come into the mind of students. And UGC correctly knows that these are the points that you might have studied during your post-graduation days. UGC will not ask some parts of this. Training questions from training will be there. Appraisal will be there. Some theories of compensation will be there. So the questions from HRM that the UGC will ask is entirely different. The pattern is not like this. I'll just tell some of the points which are relevant to UGC. Because the points like recruitment is a positive process. UGC know that every student should. Again, selection is a negative process because it eliminates a number of students. That also everyone knows. But UGC will never ask question like such. They'll be asking or they'll be keep on asking questions from some difficult area which are very relevant to learn. See, areas like bias in performance appraisal. Bias in performance appraisal, you might have studied. Leniency effect or halo effect. Have you heard about these terms? Halo effect, stereotypes. Have you heard these questions? Constant error. Constant error. Error of averaging, which you call central tendency. Central tendency. This is one of the important area from HR that the UGC will always ask. Around 5 questions from this part. Another part is techniques of performance appraisal. Techniques of performance appraisal. Let me explain the questions first. Techniques like you might have heard HR accounting. Have you seen this? HR accounting in the previous questions? HR accounting, yes or no? What are the other techniques that you have seen? BAS, have you seen? BAS, the full form itself is a previous question. BAS, behaviorally anchored rating scale. Again, 360-degree approach is a previous question. 720-degree approach is a previous question. MBO is a previous question. MBO, who put forward the idea of MBO is again a previous question. So this is another area from HR that the UGC will always ask. More than 5 questions in the previous year. Number 3 or third part is theories of compensation. Theories on compensation. Again, I'll remind the question. Peter F. Drucker, very good. Peter F. Drucker is the founder of MBO. We'll come into that a bit later. Theories on compensation. Which are the theories? I'll give you the options. Subsistence theory. Have you seen this question in the previous part? Subsistence theory. Wage fund theory. Residual claimant theory by Francis A. Walker. Have you seen these? These kind of around 7 theories were there. We'll cover that by today itself. Have you seen these questions? Theories on compensation. Another important part or another question is the difference between job description and job specification. Because this part you have seen even before, many years before, from 12th standard itself. But the problem is you will have a confusion between what is job description and what is job specification. The UGC has rightly pointed out that, and they'll keep on asking the question, the difference between job description and job specification. Again, when it comes to the end part, there will be questions from collective bargaining and trade union, negotiation, associations like AICTU, the year of formation, such questions are also there. Those are repeatedly asked. So these are the areas which you need to focus on. Otherwise, you need not learn points like the difference between recruitment and selection, or meaning of merit rating and performance appraisal, or the difference between the training and development. Those areas are not required. These are the typical areas from HR which you need to consider before going for the examination, because these are the important areas. So let us just start the session. I think the important areas you got the point, correct? Are you getting me? Shall we start? Yes, thank you. Keep responding. So the difference between HR and personnel management, this is something known to you. I'm not intended to explain the difference between these two. We'll be learning the technical areas relating to these two things, HR and personal management. Personal management is an old concept which considered humans as a tools or means of doing the works for the organization. So they were considered just like other tools or other machines. So they are the means that the company can make use of to accomplish their goals. So they are just considered as the tools for accomplishing the objectives of the organization. But when it comes to human resource management, see, the word itself states resource. Humans are considered as assets or resources of the organization. So unlike personal management, under personal management, humans are considered as tools or means of performing the tasks of the organization. Whereas when it comes to HRM, human resource management, humans were considered as assets or resources to the organization. Now the concept is clear. Now I'll be asking questions. You have to say under which point that comes under. First question. Which among the following you will be having only two options. One is HR, other one is personal management. My first question is, which of the following is proactive in nature? Which of the following, I mean either HR or personal management, which of the following is proactive in nature? You can just guess. There are only two options. Proactive. Yes, fast. Correct. HR is proactive in nature. Proactive in nature. So what about personal management? What is the opposite of proactive? What is the opposite of proactive? Yes, reactive. Personal management is reactive in nature, whereas HR is proactive in nature. So now you need to understand the difference between proactive and reactive. Reactive management takes place only when there exists a problem. That means under personal management, the top level officials will wait for a problem to incur. When there exists a problem, they will go on solving. Otherwise, they will not solve. But when it comes to HR, they will find the problems even before it occurs. So if there is a possibility of repair, they will arrange it even before. That means proactive simply means it identifies the problem before it occurs. It identifies problem before it occurs. What about reactive nature? It identifies or it solves the problem only when it occurs. Solve the problem only when it occurs. Only when it occurs. So reactive personal management, because it is not taking any precautions for the benefit of the employee, whereas HR is proactive in nature and it identifies the problem even before it occurs. So the first answer that you said is very correct. Now another question is, second one, which among the following focuses on division of labor? Division of labor. Just think and answer. Which of the following focuses on division of labor? HR or personal management? Division of management is a principle. Again, HR is one answer. Yes, any other answers? Again, HR. You'll be getting this kind of questions during assertion and reason. So there you can expect, because there are only 2 points. One is when one can be given as assertion, other one reason. I'll be giving the opposite of this too. Division of labor versus teamwork. Teamwork. Now tell me, division of labor comes under where? Yes, personal management. Personal management. Good. Personal management focuses on division of labor. Why? Because the top level of officials will be dividing the works into different departments and there ends the work. There is no mutual understanding. There is no cooperation among employees. Nothing like that. It simply divides the work into employees and they'll be doing their functions. So personnel management focuses on divisional of labor, whereas HR focuses on teamwork, because they rightly know that without a coordinated effort or without teamwork, nothing can be accomplished. So this focuses on teamwork, whereas personnel management purely based on division of labor. Now another question, see, Elton Mayo is the father of dash. Elton Mayo is the father of HR or personal management. Again, a previous question in 2016, I think. Elton Mayo is the father of HR or personal management. Personal management, it is a previous question. You can expect this kind of questions again, because UGC will repeat. If you look at the trend, UGC will repeat the question. What about the opposite is Robert Owen? Now tell me, Robert Owen. See, keep in mind, Robert Owen is the father of personal management, whereas Elton Mayo is the father of HR. Elton Mayo. This is again a previous question. Elton Mayo is a famous person, and you can expect Elton Mayo at least in options, because a number of questions were asked where Elton Mayo was there in the options. So you can expect that. Robert Owen is the father of personal management, whereas Elton Mayo is the father of HR. Again, the last question, dash starts from recruitment and ends after retirement. Ends after retirement. Dash starts from recruitment and ends after retirement. Then the opposite, I'll be giving the opposite of this two. Dash starts from job analysis and ends at exit interview. Exit interview. This is A, this is B. What about A? What is the answer of A? A part. Yes, personnel. This is personal management. See, when it comes to personal management, it starts from recruitment, because the company has identified that there is a requirement of employee. So they'll start recruiting the people, and then when the employee retire and the cycle starts again, they'll start or keep on taking another employee. So it starts from recruitment and ends after retirement, because after retirement they'll be taking another employee. Whereas under HRM or under HR, it starts from job analysis itself. It starts from job analysis and then it ends after exit interview. Keep in mind, exit interview is a two-time asked previous question. Exit interview is an interview conducted when the employee leaves an organization. Very important. It is a previous question asked at least 2 times. Very important. Now, I think the difference between HR and personal management is clear to you, right? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now, job analysis and its results. Again, this you might have seen around say 50 times. Many times they have asked this question, most repeated question, because there exists a confusion in your mind. So job analysis, we need to know what is job analysis first. Job analysis simply means breaking the job into different components. Breaking the job into different components. Breaking the job into different components is called job analysis. What is job analysis? Breaking the job into different components. Why is it done? It is done to simplify the work. Now, after job analysis, you will be getting 2 outputs. After job analysis, you will be getting 2 outputs. One is job description, other one is job specification. The concept is very simple. You can learn the same from the wordings itself. See, we always describe things, but we always specify persons. That is the difference. We always describe things, whereas we always specify persons. So when you think about or when you talk about the nature of job, it is called job description. You are simply describing the job. So describing the job is called job description. It includes the each and every element of the job. Like job title will be there, location of the job will be there, summary of the job will be there, duties to be performed will be there, machines to be operated will be there, tools to be used will be there, materials to be used will be there, the supervision or the kind of supervision given to employees will be there, working condition will be there. So these are the conditions, so these are the contents that are included under job description. So describing, job description means describing the job, what has to be done, the nature of job, the title of job, the summary of job, the content that is included, the supervision that has to be given. So that kind of description is included under job description. But when it comes to job specification, here the employee or the person who is performing the job is specified. That means the qualification required to the employee, qualifications, experience, training, skills, IQ, EQ, initiative capacity, responsibilities, etc. So here under job specification, the nature of employee or the qualification that an employee should possess, that is mentioned under job specification. Now let me ask you a simple question. If these concepts are clear, the previous question can come in this way. Job description means describing the job. It is all about how to perform the task, or it is all about the nature of job. Job specification is the qualification possessed by the employee to perform the same task. Now the question is, which among these two is a quantitative statement? It is a previous question. Which among these two is a quantitative statement? Guess, any guess? Quantitative. Think twice because it is a previous question. Which among these two is a quantitative statement? Job description or job specification? Job description is your answer. Any other answer? Everyone can respond, right? Again, job description. Specification, on the other hand, again the results are contradictory. The quantitative statement here is job specification. This is how you miss marks in UGC. Specification is the answer. Job specification is a quantitative statement because it talks about quantity. Yes, skills. See, qualification, a post graduation is required. That is a quantity. See, EQ at this rate is required. Again, a quantity. Or this much initiative has to be taken. Again, a quantity. So a quantitative statement is job specification. What about job description then? Job description is a job description is a qualitative statement. Exactly, qualitative statement. Qualitative statement. Keep this point in mind. First, you need to identify the difference between job description and specification. After that, what or which among these two is qualitative and which among these two is quantitative. Why job specification is quantitative? Because it states a number of quantity or the number of limit or the qualification that is required by an employee to perform the task. So here the company is limiting some qualifications. That is why it is a quantitative statement. Whereas under job description, the entire theoretical framework of the work is given. So it is purely qualitative in nature. So, got the point between difference between job description and specification? Is that clear to you? Yes. Now ergonomics, they never asked a question from this part. But in the present scenario, there are, because we are going through a pandemic, and now the works are arranged accordingly. Work from home is there. So this term you need to know. Ergonomics means shaping the job to fit the physical abilities of the employee. Yes, work from home. Shaping the job to fit the physical ability of the employee. Shaping the job to fit with the physical abilities of the employee. That means work from home facility, or when an employee demands for a maternity leave, giving that, arranging the entire job. Yes, arranging the entire job as per the requirements of employees to make them comfortable to work. That is the concept of ergonomics. It is an emerging area. It is of recent emergence. Many students are doing research under the topic ergonomics. So keep that in mind. UGC has never asked because it is an emergent trend, but in future you can expect questions from this part too. Let us move forward. Now, deployment strategies. Deployment strategies. Again, one of the very important question. More than 10 questions were there from this part. Important area. What is deployment? What is deployment? Employment means giving job. What about deployment? It simply means what? Deployment. Yes, removing employees from job is called deployment. Deploying the employee means removing the employee from job. So you might have seen questions like retrenchment means assertion and reason. Under assertion, retrenchment means such and such. Again, under reason, layoff simply means or simply leads to retrenchment. So that's those kind of questions you can expect. Many questions from this part. Let us quickly go through the difference between all these terms. Retrenchment. What is retrenchment? Retrenchment means when there exists a lack of demand. When this happens, when there exists a lack of demand, maybe demand for the products are very low, this time the company will ask the employee to leave the organization. So when this will happen only when there exists a lack of demand. Yes, excess manpower. See, we have only limited demand, so we don't need to have this much employees in the organization. So there exists the demand or need or requirement of removing these employees from the organization. So for removing these employees, the company will ask the employee to leave the organization. 2 points that you have to keep in mind. It happens only when there exists a lack of demand. The part of the employee, not whole, part of employees are asked to leave the organization. Employee are asked to leave the organization. Leave the organization. 2 cases, when it exists only when there exists a lack of demand, and the employees are asked by the company itself to leave the organization. Okay. One question from this part. Will the company pay any compensation for retrenchment? Yes, no. Will the company pay any compensation for retrenchment? It is again a previous question. That is why I am stressing on that point. Yes or no? Yes. Compensation is paid. Compensation is paid. Because lack of demand is not the problem created by the employee. Why should they suffer? They haven't created any problem, or the lack of demand doesn't arise from the part of the employee. So the problem is with the company. Now the company have to compensate the employee by paying a reasonable compensation. Again, this part also an assertion question. Compensation is paid under retrenchment, whereas it is not paid under layoff. So the difference, Anju, your mic is on. Do you have anything to say? Anju?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So retrenchment, it happens only when there exists a lack of demand. Part of the employees asked by the company to leave the organization, and a reasonable compensation is paid to the employee for leaving the organization. Number 2 is layoff. Layoff. Layoff is temporary in nature. Keep in mind, layoff is temporary in nature. That means it happens due to a temporary shortage of stock. There might not be having any stock in the organization, or maybe due to depression or what you call recession. So these things are out of the control of the business. how business can control a situation of recession or depression. So layoff is a temporary, owing to pandemic. During pandemic period, company cannot run. So during this time, layoff is used as a deployment strategy. It is temporary in nature and it takes place maybe due to the reason which is out of control of the company. Out of the control of the company. Okay, layoff is temporary in nature and layoff takes place only when there exists a situation like a pandemic or recession or shortage of materials in the business, such things. Let me ask you whether compensation is paid here or not. Do the business need to pay compensation for layoff? One answer is yes. Any other answers? Fast, fast. The right answer is no. No compensation is paid. No compensation. Yes, yes. No compensation is paid. No compensation is paid. Why? Because the reason is beyond the control of the employer. Employer is not creating a recession. Employer is not creating a pandemic. So why should employer pay remuneration to the employees? That is not required. So under layoff, no compensation is paid, whereas under retrenchment, reasonable compensation is paid. These two terms you can expect under assertion and reason. Retrenchment sentence will be like this. Retrenchment takes place due to lack of demand and the reasonable compensation is paid to employees. Under the reason part, layoff is a temporary cut down of employees and here no compensation are paid. See, the answer is both the statements are true. There was a question like that. Now the third one is lockout. Lockout. Lockout simply means strike. Strike. Or blackmailing the employees to leave. When there exists a strike, this is called coercion. Coercion. You might have heard this term under Contract Act, Indian Contract Act. Coercion. Means the company, when there exists a strike, maybe from the part of the employer or from the part of the employee, you might have seen that the company blackmail employees to leave the organization. If that thing is happening, that is called lockout. Lockout simply means strike. Through strike, employees are asked to leave the organization. Now, learning can be done by providing job in another institution. By providing job in another institution. So, what is learning? Learning means suppose the company wants to reduce employees, but it is not reasonable to ask the employees to leave the organization because that is not a mannerism. So, in order to cover that, the company will provide job in another institution or company will be arranging job in some other organization and that is called learning. They are not asked to leave the company simply. Instead of that, they will be given a job in some other organization so that the problem will get solved. Retrenchment with compensation, layoff without compensation, lockout, strike, learning, asking the employee to leave by substituting this job with another job. Now VRS, there is a beautiful previous question called which among the following is called a golden handshake? Have you seen this question? Which among the following is called golden handshake? Have you seen this question? Previous UGC? Yes, you have seen. Voluntary retirement scheme. Voluntary retirement scheme, VRS. A number of times this question has been asked repeatedly. Which among the following is called golden shake hand? Golden shake hand. That means here the employee himself initiate for leaving the organization. This normally happens in the case of military job or army, navy kind of works where the employee himself take initiative to leave the organization and that is called a VRS. So if you are offering or if you are choosing VRS, you will be getting handsome compensation. Handsome compensation. You will be getting a better amount during your VRS because it is initiated by the employee himself. So VRS means golden handshake between the employer and employee. There is no problem in between. I mean between the employer and employee. Employee is simply leaving the organization with his own permission, with his own initiative. So here there is no issues between the employer and employee. That is why it is called golden shake hand. Now handsome compensation is paid to the employee if he prefers VRS. These 5 points clear to you? Difference between these 5? Is this okay? Okay. 5 more. Next one is attrition. Attrition. Again, a previous question. Attrition. Here, the company wants employee to leave. Under attrition, the company wants employee to leave, but they are unable to tell the same to employee directly. What they'll do? The employer will change the job environment. Here, the job environment is changed. Job environment is changed, or work is changed. Work change. So what will happen as a result? Employee himself leaves the organization by saying that I'm not comfortable with this job. So under attrition, what will happen? The employer himself change the job environment, or the work will be changed. Employee will have a feeling that this work is not comfortable to me, so I must leave this organization. So by this way, employee himself will leave the organization. It is the initiative is not taken by the employee, just like VRS. The employee is tempted to take this decision. Who tempt the employee? The employee is tempted by the organization by changing the working environment. That is called attrition. See, the timing can be changed from 9 to 5, the normal hour. It can be like 8 to 6. So the timing is changed. Employee will be forced to leave the organization. So that is attrition. Job environment is changed, or work is changed. So the employee will leave the organization voluntarily, but it is not just like voluntary retirement scheme, where under VRS, the complete initiative comes from the part of the employee. Here it is compelled by the employer. That is attrition. Now burnout. Burnout, you might have heard this term under management, burning the fat. Burning the fat or burnout. Here, the company needs employees to leave. The mannerisms or the strategy that the company is taken by making the work environment strict. Making the work environment very strict. The working environment is made strict so that employee will leave the organization. See, burnout or burning the fat is the major reason behind why companies go for mergers and acquisition. You might have seen this under corporate accounting. The motives of most of the companies, why they are going for mergers and acquisition or amalgamation absorption, purely burnout. Because when there are two companies, there is a need of two CEOs, two departmental heads. When it comes to mergers and acquisition, one employee can be cut. That is burnout or burning the fat or eliminating the unwanted employees in the organization. You can do exercise to eliminate your unwanted fat. Similarly, companies can merge to eliminate unwanted employees from the organization. You might have seen this part under corporate accounting. It comes over there. Still, burnout simply means the working environment is made strict so that when the employees are intolerant to the job, they leave the organization. Now, dismissal, it can be called as the last resort of the organization. Last resort. Why? Because after trying all the other 7 types of deployment strategy, but still the employee are not leaving. See, they have tried attrition, burnout, or work sharing, or VRS, everything that the company has tried, but the employee are not leaving the organization. In such case, the company will terminate the employee by giving a notice. So this simply means termination of employees from the job. What is dismissal? Termination of employees from the job is called a dismissal. So dismissal means terminating the employee directly by giving a notice. You need not serve more. It is enough for the company. Just leave. That is called dismissal. Now downsizing and right sizing, its difference also. Number of previous questions were there. Have you seen that? Difference between downsizing and right sizing. Have you seen those questions? Previous? Haven't seen? Yes, you have seen. Okay. Number of questions like this. Difference between downsizing and right sizing. or a statement regarding downsizing will be there in the question, and identify which among the following relates to downsizing. So that kind of questions you can expect. Downsizing, as someone told, downsizing simply means reduction of workforce. Reduction of workforce. Downsizing means reduction of workforce through, maybe all the techniques can be used, through VRS or through dismissal or through burnout or through the attrition. So the company can make use of any techniques or any deployment strategy, and then they can cut the workforce, or reduction of downsizing. That means narrowing down. These many employees were there, that is cut into a very small number of employees. That is called downsizing. Downsizing simply means cutting of employees or reduction of workforce by using any deployment strategy, just like attrition, burnout, dismissal. Any strategy, VRS, can be used by the company to reduce the workforce. But right sizing is something different. Right sizing means the employee is asked to do something else with the current job. See, if the company, the employee is serving as a production manager, suppose, if the employee is doing the work called production manager at present, the employee is asked to handle the marketing department also, marketing department. So he can move right or left. He has to do some other work along with the current job. So suppose he is performing some job at present, he is required to do some more work, or his workload will be added. That is called right sizing. So what is the effects of right sizing? It simply means giving telecall or tele work, or giving part-time work, horizontal movement, correct, part-time work, or giving pay cuts. Employee salary will be cut. So these are the responsibility of the employee will go up, but there exists a pay cut, or giving much more part-time work, or adding more works to the current job. So these are rights. Job and enlargement, I'll come into that a bit later. Enlargement and enrichment strategy, somewhat same, I'll come into that. Okay, pay cut, etc. And what is the after effect of this right sizing? Reduce the workload, reduce the salary, reduce the salary, or reduce the working days, cost saving for the company, salary cut to the employee, doing more task by the employee, repeated work, absenteeism. When the employee feels it discomfortable, they will surely leave the organization, or that will lead to excessive absenteeism. So these are the effect of right sizing, because they are supposed to work or do more tasks along with the current task. That will add more burden to the employee. So the employee is supposed to leave the organization due to right sizing. Sometimes they'll take it as a motivation. Sometimes, most probably, employees will leave the organization due to right sizing or adding excess work to their normal schedule. So we have so far covered the 10 different strategies relating to deployment. Is the 10 points clear to you? Shall we move forward? In between, if you have any doubt, please feel free to ask. You have all the freedom, because the exam is yours. Yes. See, I know that I haven't shared any kind of basics, because you know that recruitment is a positive selection process, because it takes a number of candidates into the organization. But when it comes to selection, it eliminates a lot of employees, because selection is a very rigid process, and it is a negative process too. Those things you might have studied, because and no more questions that the UGC has asked from that part. So I'm stressing on the UGC part, the questions that the UGC has asked most recently. When you are preparing for UGC also, start solving questions from 2008 to 2020. These questions are very much relevant. Start from backwards, because we have a very limited, around 20 days left for the current UGC exam. So start from backwards, 2020, 2019, do it in that way. When you solve a particular question, you might be having 4 options. See, suppose a question like this comes. Which among the following related to job title, job summary, job location, etc. So this is the question. The options will be job analysis, job specification, job description, job design. These are the options that you can expect. What is the answer? What's the answer? Yes, the right answer is description. Job description is the answer. This we have seen. So when a question like this, or when you are solving previous questions, when you see a question like this, you can eliminate A and D at the beginning of the question itself. When you read or when you start reading the question, you can eliminate job analysis and job description. I mean job design. So there are two options that will create confusion in your mind. Do one thing, take a standard textbook, refer that, and make yourself clear that you can differentiate between these two terms. This is how you can prepare for previous questions. Otherwise, if you are just reading the question and solving the answer, it doesn't create any difference. You must do it in this way. If you can eliminate those options, it is okay. If any options are confusing you, just refer textbooks, differentiate those two, keep that or store that in your permanent memory. It will never go out. Again, when you learn a point, learn from the word specification. We specify persons. So anything relating to employee is job specification. Description, we describe things. It is all about the job. So when you learn in that way, it will never confuse you. Otherwise, if you are going for its definitions or concepts or unwanted things, it will again needs further clarification. So don't go in that way. It is that simple. Again, when you refer questions, do it in this way. Don't just go for questions and answers alone. You still have more than 20 days. Go for all the previous questions backward from 2020 to 2008. Do at least 1 year's question paper. In 12 days, you can complete. Do 2020 all the question paper in the first day and 2019 on the second day. If you are doing in that way, you can cover the entire question papers in 12 days, and the remaining days you can use for revision. So do it in that way, plan it in that way. Now induction. Number of questions were asked on this part. Who put forward the idea of induction? Have you seen this previous question? Induction was put forward by? Have you seen that? Yes, Eric Berne contributed the idea called induction. Again, let me ask you an assertion question asked from induction. The assertion was like this: A, induction is done to explain the miscellaneous issues relating to the organization. Assertion. Now the reason induction can be used as a means of motivation to employees. I hope you know the options. When you see an assertion reason questions, there will be 4 options. Both the statements are right, both the statements are wrong. First statement right, second one wrong. First statement wrong, second one right. Now what is the answer? What is your answer? Both are right, both are wrong. First one right, second one wrong, and the opposite. What is your answer? First one is incorrect, Arpita. This one is incorrect. What about the second one? Both wrong. Another one. This question was asked in 2017 or 18. It is a recent question. A wrong. The answer is first statement is wrong, second statement is right. This is that simple. Induction, second true, correct, very good. First statement is right. First statement is wrong because induction need not be always intended to explain the miscellaneous issues, because since we started the session, see, Anjana has introduced me. She hasn't told anything miscellaneous. She just introduced myself, or she introduced me to you. The purpose of induction is to familiarize the employee to the others, to the other employees, among the other employees. It need not leads to explaining the miscellaneous issues relating to the organization, but sometimes it acts as a motivational factor to the employees. So first statement is wrong, whereas second statement is right. Now what is induction? Induction simply means familiarizing the employee or socializing the employee. This is the right term. This is a term that is there in the previous question. familiarizing the employee or socializing the employee to the organization is called induction. What is induction? Familiarizing or socializing the employee to the organization is called induction, and the idea of induction was put forward by Eric Berne. So this part you know. Again the question came from this part, metamorphosis stage of induction. So keep in mind there are 3 stages which is concerned with induction. First stage is pre-arrival stage. The concept is very simple. Pre-arrival stage. What is pre-arrival stage? The employee is ready to enter into the organization. Employee will be having some assumptions about the organization which may be true, may not be true. So the employee is having a number of expectations in his or her mind. Now she is entering into the organization. So pre-arrival stage or in pre-arrival stage, employee will have only assumptions about the organization. So this is the pre-stage, pre-entry stage, assumptions about the organization. The employee is going to enter into the organization. She may be thinking like, what will be the organization? How do the boss will react? What are her tasks or challenges? So that kind of assumption. See, this will happen in your college days also. Before entering your college or entering into your post-graduation, you'll be having a number of assumptions. So that stage is called pre-arrival stage. Encounter stage is actual situation. So this is again the somewhat like the process of controlling, comparing the assumptions with actuals. That is called controlling. So pre-arrival stage where the employee will be having a number of assumptions about the organization. But when it comes to encounter stage, it is the actual situation that the employee should go through. So when the employee enters, the feeling that the employee is having about the organization is called encounter stage. Now these two can sometimes match, whereas sometimes it cannot match. The difference between pre-arrival stage and encounter stage will lead to metamorphosis stage. Now we need to know what is metamorphosis stage. Now let me ask you something. If the assumptions of the employee exactly matches with the actual situation. Repeat, if the assumptions in the pre-arrival stage is exactly matching with the actual situation, that is encounter stage, will it create a positive impact on the part of the employee or it create a negative impact? Positive or negative? It will create a positive impact from the viewpoint of the employee. So metamorphosis stage takes place when the employee getting positively adjusted with the work environment. Let me repeat, when the employee is positively adjusted with the work situation. When the employee is positively adjusted with the work situation, it is called a metamorphosis stage. See, if the employee is positively adjusted with the working situation or working condition, what will happen? His employment ability will increase. His employment ability will go up. He will perform well, right? His employment ability will go up. His productivity will go up. What about labor turnover? Labor turnover will go up or down? Up or down? Labor turnover reduce. It will reduce. Employee will not go out from the organization, or employee will not leave, or employee will not take any leave. Why? Because they are adjusted with the organization. So labor turnover will reduce. What about stress? Will come down or go up? Stress. It will reduce. So when the employee get positively adjusted with the working situation or environment, his employment ability will go up, productivity will go up, it will contribute positively to the organization by creating more profit, labor turnover or absenteeism will come down, stress from the part of the employee will come down, motivation will go up. So this is the after effect of metamorphosis stage. But keep in mind, once the employee is dissatisfied with the job, that means the assumptions are not exactly matching with actual situation, then it leads to deployment. You know the deployment strategies that we have seen, around 10 strategies we have seen. So if the metamorphosis stage is not working positively, or if it creates a distraction or dissatisfaction from the point of the employee, it leads to deployment and the employee will leave the organization voluntarily. So first two stages can be compared and we'll get to know whether the employee is positively satisfied or not. If they are positively satisfied, then that is metamorphosis stage, where the performance of the employee will go up and the turnover and stress, like things like that, will come down. But if the employee is not positively adjusted, or the result of the result of this induction is negative, then it leads to deployment. Is this concept clear to you? Induction, okay? Yes, moving forward, training and development. Training and development. Can you differentiate between training and development, these two terms? What is the difference? Both are same or not? Is there any difference? Type yes if there exists difference, no if there is no difference. Yes, there are differences. Training is concerned with the present condition. So employees are given training to improve the current scenario. Whereas correct, development is a broader term and development is future oriented. So giving training at present will lead to development in future. Correct, correct. It is long term. Development is future oriented, whereas training is present. Training is related to the present scenario. Now again from this part, I'll be explaining some of the previous question. Induction we have seen, many times they have asked. Position rotation is a previous question. Apprenticeship training previous. Lateral transfers previous. Again sensitivity T group training by Kurt Lewin is a previous question. Stimulation previous question. Vestibule previous question. Role play and case study previous question. Have you seen any of these questions? Yes, we'll be going through all the points, but keep in mind these are the very important areas which are asked by UGC many times. Induction, I think that doesn't require much explanation, that you know. Coaching simply means instructions provided by a coach. Instruction provided by a coach without doing the work. Without doing the work. The concept is very simple, just go through that. The coach will be providing instruction to the employee, but he will not be doing anything. He will be giving instructions only. By listening to the instruction, employees will work. So the working part should be done by the employee, whereas the employer will be giving, or the coach will be giving instructions only to the candidate. So it is coaching. It is done at the working stage. On the job means training is given at the workplace itself. The employee is not going anywhere else. The training taking place in the organization itself, where the employee is actually working. So induction taking place in the workplace, where the employee enter into the organization, employer will give induction or orientation to the employee. Coaching is also done in the organization itself. Now mentoring, we need to know the difference between coaching and mentoring. When it comes to mentoring, the relationship is mentor-mentee relationship. And again, mentor will identify the potential of mentee. Identify the potentials or the capacities of the mentee. Here, under coaching, coach will be giving only instructions. He is not doing anything. But when it comes to mentoring, the thing is different. Here, the mentor will identify the capacity and potentials of the employee and will be providing training based on that. Another one is position rotation, which you call job rotation. Job rotation. Here, the same employee is supposed to work in different departments. If you go into a bank, you can see sometimes a person will be, an employee will be sitting at the enquiry stage or enquiry part. And some other times you can see the same person in the cash counter. That means an employee is required to do all the jobs so that the repeatedness of work or the boredom created by repeatedness can be avoided. For that, position rotation can be done. Again, apprenticeship training simply means learn and earn. Learn and earn, or the quote is called earn while learning. Earn while learning. The apprenticeship is given to students or employees normally by paying earn while learning, by paying a very small substantial amount. So earn while learning, because these are the present students are our future employees. Present students are our future employees. So they need to be paid a very small amount for doing their functions. Apprenticeship training, it follows. Generally, IT companies will, correct, IT companies will provide apprenticeship training, earn while learning. After learning, you will be placed in that company itself. So it is given in the workplace itself. Again, staff meetings, you know, it is conducted within the organization, conducting meetings in the organization or inside the organization. So again, it is an on-the-job training. Lateral transfers means upward and downward movement of employees. Upward and downward movement of employees. I'll stop in 5 minutes. Upward and downward movement of employees. Lateral transfers. That means promotion and demotion. Promotion and demotion within the same organization. Vertical and horizontal movement, or upward and downward movement, it takes place within the organization. Sometimes employees are promoted, or sometimes they are cut down with the position. So that is lateral transfers. Projects and assignments, you know, that is done in the workplace itself. In your college also you might have seen. Committees are also formed within the organization where the employees can join together to discuss about a particular topic. It will sometimes act as a training method. And action meeting is a question answer hour. Question answer hour. What is that? A challenging issue will be given to the employees. By conducting an action meeting, employee will be discussing about that topic and will give a very pertinent answer or possible solution. So an issue will be given to a group and it is being challenged to the employee. Employee will be giving possible solutions to the question, and in that way it will act as a method of training. So these are the different on the job training. Clear? On the job training clear? Is that clear to you? On the job training? Left part? Okay. We'll be dealing with this off the job training, theories of compensation, performance appraisal, techniques of performance appraisal, and biases in performance appraisal, etc. in the coming classes. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, let us wind up. Coordinators there?
Hello, ma'am.
Arsha, please.
Okay, ma'am. So
Arsha, I can hear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So I think we can conclude. Is anybody having any doubts? So here we comes to the end of today's session. Hope you all enjoyed the session and had a fruitful time. So today we had the first part of human resource management, and for that I would like to thank Ms. Prasida ma'am from the bottom of our heart for sparing time from her busy schedule and to enlighten us on this area. So thank you so much, ma'am. And we'll be having the next part on this topic in coming sessions, which will be informed to you through our Telegram channel or WhatsApp group. So tomorrow we will be having a session on Indian Accounting Standards and IFRS by Dr. Biju T, Associate Professor at Department of Commerce, University of Kerala. So thank you all the participants for your active participation and patient listening. So I am Arsha Hari, MPhil scholar and the coordinator of today's session. Thanking you all. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.